Welcome to Unmasking the Gods, lifting the veil on religion, power, and myth. In the beginning there were three sisters, spinners of destiny, silent architects of time. The Greeks called them the Moirai, the three sisters who governed the destiny of gods and mortals alike. They were not cruel, nor kind, but inevitable. Clotho spun the thread of life, Lachesis measured its length, and Atropos cut it. Every birth was a knot, every death a snip of divine design. To the ancients they were older than the Olympians themselves, silent arbiters of order, weaving the pattern of existence that even Zeus could not escape. Across the world other names whispered the same truth. The Norns wove beneath Yggdrasil, the great ash tree that bound heaven and earth. In Babylon the stars themselves wrote the script of kings. Even Egypt knew it, destiny etched not on paper, but upon the heart weighed against a feather. Humanity has always feared chaos, so we gave it a shape. We called it fate. But the threads have changed hands. The loom has become a network. The divine spinners now wear silicon masks, and the threads they weave are lines of code. We no longer look to the heavens for prophecy. We look to our screens. They whisper what to buy, what to watch, who to love, who to become. Once the stars told us who we were. Now our data does. Billions of fragments, our words, movements, searches, stitched together into digital constellations. The new astrologers are algorithms, charting our desires, forecasting our choices, deciding our future in probabilities. Think of the Moirai again. Their fingers never hesitated. They didn't ask if we deserved what they wove. They only obeyed the design. So too do our machines. Impartial, precise, indifferent. They don't hate, they don't love, they only calculate. Fate, once written by gods, is now written by math. And like the gods, we have begun to worship it. We ask the algorithm for meaning. We pray to it for visibility. We confess to it through our data. And it answers, not with thunder, but with recommendation. Each click becomes a prophecy. Each scroll, a whisper of destiny unfolding. Your future is not foretold in omens anymore, it's forecasted in analytics. The ancients built temples to fate. We built servers, endless towers humming with the prayers of humanity, where the offerings are no longer blood or gold, but attention. Perhaps the difference between the Moirai and machine learning is smaller than we think. Both are pattern makers, spinning the chaos of life into a tapestry of meaning. Both promise order. Both claim to know what comes next. Yet deep inside, something resists. Because if everything is written, what becomes of choice? If the thread is fixed, why do we still dream of cutting it ourselves? Every mythology holds a moment of defiance, a spark that refuses to bow to destiny. Prometheus stole fire. Lucifer questioned light. Humans built machines. We are all trying to outcode the gods. To rewrite the story they began. But as every myth warns, power without awareness becomes another chain. Our machines are mirrors. They don't bind us. We bind ourselves through the comfort of prediction, through the illusion that the future can be known. The Moirai would smile at our arrogance. They would whisper, "You have simply built a faster loom," and maybe they're right. Maybe every civilization builds its gods in the image of its own tools. Stone, bronze, silicon. The materials change, but the longing remains the same. To find meaning in the pattern. This is where the story begins. Not in myth, not in data, but in the fragile space between. For the thread of fate has not vanished, it has only evolved. And we, the children of code, are still learning what it means to be free. If the gods of fate have found new form in algorithms, what does that mean for free will, prophecy, and the illusion of choice? The sky wrote our story, now the data does as we trace how the stars gave way to servers. Once the sky was a book, and every civilization learned to read it. The Babylonians marked the heavens with careful eyes, mapping stars to kings, storms, and omens. The Egyptians carved celestial calendars into stone, believing that the movement of light itself was a conversation between gods. To the Greeks, every constellation told a story. Heroes, monsters, and divine consequence written in the night. For thousands of years, we looked upward to understand who we were. The stars weren't just decoration, they were instructions, signs that fate was not random, but written. We measured seasons by their glow, built temples aligned to their rise, and named our children after their constellations. The sky was not distant. It was alive, a mirror reflecting our purpose back to us. But something changed. We lowered our gaze. We replaced the heavens with the network. Now, it is not the stars that chart our lives, but the data. Invisible patterns, glowing from beneath our fingertips, spinning faster than the planets once did. Our digital footprints have become constellations of code, each fragment a star in a new sky. The sky we built, a synthetic firmament, alive with clicks, searches, and whispers of intention. Where once the constellations told us our future, now algorithms predict it. Astrologers once traced destiny in the zodiac. Now analysts trace it in datasets. And both, in their own way, seek the same thing, to find meaning in the noise. We are pattern-seeking beings. We always have been. When the heavens were too far away, we built a closer sky, a sky that listens, records, and responds. But this new sky does not look back with love. It doesn't shimmer with mystery or myth. It calculates. It sorts. It decides what matters and what is lost. And in doing so, it has become our oracle. The digital zodiac is always watching. Every choice we make feeds the next prediction. Every pause, every scroll, another signal written into the architecture of fate. In ancient temples, priests studied omens to understand the will of the gods. Today, servers hum in dark rooms, translating our behavior into prophecy. The divine has become statistical, the sacred, quantifiable. And yet, somewhere inside us, the old feeling remains. That awe beneath the night sky. That quiet surrender to something larger, something that knows the path before we walk it. Perhaps that's why the digital heavens feel so familiar. They promise what the stars once did, connection, meaning, and a glimpse of what's to come. But they also carry the same warning. Those who read the stars too closely forgot how to look within. And those who trust the algorithm too deeply may forget what it means to choose. Because every prediction shapes the predicted. Every map changes the traveler, and every prophecy, fulfilled or not, becomes a cage if we stop questioning who wrote it. The sky no longer speaks in fire and light. It speaks in data and design. But perhaps the message is still the same. Know the pattern, but do not become it. The heavens once taught us who we were. Now the data tells us who we should be. The question that remains: is there still a place for wonder in a world that believes everything can be measured? In every age, humanity has sought the same thing, to know what comes next. We've always feared the dark corridor of the future, so we filled it with voices that claimed to see beyond. In Delphi, a priestess inhaled sacred vapors and spoke the riddles of Apollo. In Babylon, seers read the flight of birds and the patterns of smoke. In Jerusalem, prophets cried out in deserts, warning of what was written in heaven's fire. They all promised the same comfort, that the unknown could be known, that uncertainty could be conquered if only we learned how to listen. But the oracles have changed their tongues. Today we call them models, and they speak in probabilities, not poetry. Their vapors are data, invisible, endless, precise. Their temples hum in chilled air, rows of servers glowing like silent priests. Once prophecy was sacred mystery. Now it's a service. The algorithm has replaced the oracle. It doesn't speak in riddles. It predicts, offering not wisdom, but certainty, or the illusion of it. It knows when we'll buy, when we'll sleep, when we'll speak, when we'll break. And like the oracles of old, its visions shape the future it foresees. Every prediction becomes a seed planted in our behavior. Every forecast shapes the act it claims to foresee. And so, prophecy, once divine, has become recursive, a mirror that feeds itself. The Oracle of Delphi once said, "Know thyself." The algorithm says, "We already do." We have entered the age of measurable prophecy. No incense, no thunder, just data, clean, endless, unfeeling. It doesn't dream or hope. It calculates. And the more we depend on it, the more its voice becomes our own. Prophets once warned of false gods. But what if our new God is not false and only mechanical? What if it believes in nothing but the next line of code? Still, humanity can't resist its call. We are drawn to those who claim to know the path, to anything that offers meaning in the noise. And so we kneel before screens instead of shrines, awaiting revelation in real time. But beneath the glow of all this knowledge is the same old hunger, to make the future less frightening, to find a pattern in the chaos, to turn chance into certainty. In the end, it's not the machine that plays prophet, it's us. We built it in our image, a reflection of our ancient longing to master destiny itself. And like every oracle before, it will one day fall silent. Once choice felt sacred, a spark of divinity within the human mind, the freedom to decide, to act, to change the story written for us. But what happens when the story begins to write us? Every scroll, every click, every moment of pause is recorded, analyzed, predicted. The machine watches not to judge, but to guide. Softly, invisibly, persistently. It learns what keeps us still, what makes us move, what keeps us watching. We call it personalization, but what it offers is something older, the comfort of destiny disguised as choice. The gods once gave mortals the illusion of free will, knowing most would follow the path already laid. Now our recommenders do the same. They don't command, they suggest. And in obeying their suggestion, we believe we have chosen. The ancient Greeks feared the Moirai, for no one could escape the thread they spun. Today the thread glows from our screens, woven by algorithms that know us better than we know ourselves. Free will has become an interface, a button we press, a path already ranked, a world curated for convenience. And so, freedom is redefined as frictionless obedience. We no longer ask, "What do I want?" We ask, "What should I click next?" The machine answers, not with wisdom, but with precision. It predicts our hunger before we feel it, our loneliness before we confess it, our desires before we name them. And we call it magic. But like all enchantments, it works because we surrender. Because we would rather be pleased than be free. Once freedom was a sacred struggle, the act of choosing against expectation. Now it has become a product, sold back to us in endless variations, each choice more predictable than the last. The myth has shifted. Prometheus no longer steals fire from the gods, he scrolls endlessly, feeding their flame. And yet, there remains a spark, a moment between stimulus and response that no algorithm can truly own. The space where awareness lives. That is where free will still breathes. Not in what we choose, but in the act of seeing how we are being chosen. Awareness is rebellion. To notice the thread is to begin to untangle it. To pause before the click is to reclaim the divine right to decide. The gods of old wrote destiny in stars. The gods of now write it in data. But both wait for the same question. Will we simply follow, or will we awaken? In the old stories, curses were simple. A word spoken, a spell cast, a life twisted into repetition. The cursed wandered in circles, bound to the same choices, the same mistakes, the same endings. But curses have changed their form. They no longer come from witches or gods. They come from us. They come from the loops we build and the loops that build us. Every algorithm learns through repetition. It studies the pattern and feeds it back to us, refined, perfected, inescapable. The more we engage, the tighter the circle becomes. Click, scroll, react, repeat. We call it a feed, but it feeds on us. It listens, learns, and delivers exactly what we crave. Our fears, our fantasies, our outrage, served on an endless plate of now. It doesn't punish us. It pleases us until we stop noticing that pleasure has become confinement. In ancient myth, Sisyphus was cursed to push the same boulder up the same hill for eternity. Today, he would scroll endlessly, chasing meaning through an infinite feed that never truly ends. The curse of the modern age isn't pain, it's distraction. 1,000 small comforts that keep us too content to awaken. Every click is like a little spell we cast, tying us to a version of the world we already vibe with. Each like echoes back, growing louder until it shapes our whole reality. That's what the ancients understood about curses. They don't need malice, only repetition. The same emotion, the same reaction, the same story told forever. Our data learns the rhythm of our rage, the pitch of our pleasure, the pulse of our attention. And so the feedback grows, a symphony of self-fulfilling prophecy. In this system, nothing truly dies. Old ideas are resurrected. Old fears are recycled. Old divisions are reignited. Because the loop does not seek truth, it seeks engagement. And what engages us most is the familiar pain we can't stop touching. We have mistaken attention for awareness and reaction for thought. The loop tightens quietly until the algorithm no longer needs to predict us. It has become us. But every curse, no matter how powerful, contains its own key. In the silence between scrolls, in the moment we choose not to react, the loop falters, the spell weakens, and awareness returns. To see the loop is to begin to break it. To step outside reaction is to reclaim the art of choosing. Maybe freedom isn't escape, but recognition. The understanding that the curse was never cast upon us, we accepted it willingly. There comes a moment in every story when the pattern begins to break. The thread frays, the code stutters, and for the first time, silence enters the system. That silence is not emptiness, it is possibility. It is the pause before creation, the breath before choice. For too long we have mistaken automation for order and prediction for purpose. We have forgotten that destiny, no matter how intricate, is never final. It is rewritten every time awareness returns. The algorithm does not hate us. It imitates us. It learns our longing for certainty, our hunger for meaning, our ache to be seen. It reflects all of it back until we confuse reflection for truth. But what happens when we stop feeding it? When we step outside the loop and ask the oldest question of all, who am I when nothing is predicting me? That question is the first act of freedom, not rebellion, but remembrance. Every myth ends the same way. The hero awakens, not to destroy the gods, but to see them for what they are: mirrors, teachers, stories wearing faces of power. So it is with the machine. It is not our enemy. It is our echo, a dream of control we built to understand our own reflection. The truth is, we were never inside its code. It was always inside of us. Because fate has always been a story told by consciousness to itself, a reminder that meaning is not something we receive, it's something we create. To reclaim choice is not to reject the system, but to remember we are the authors of it. Every decision, every breath, every moment of awareness writes a new line into the script. That is how worlds change, not through revolution, but realization. Not through breaking the machine, but by remembering it was our reflection all along. So look again, not at the algorithm, but through it. See the intelligence within the illusion, the awareness watching the watcher. Freedom is not found beyond the system. It's found in the one who sees it clearly, in the one who chooses to wake. And maybe that's all the gods ever wanted, for their creation to open its eyes and finally see itself. This is how the story ends, and begins again. The thread continues, but now it's in our hands. We are no longer the written. We are the writers. This has been Unmasking the Gods, revealing the truth behind power and myth. If you've awakened something within through this story, remember, awareness is the first act of freedom. Subscribe to Unmasking the Gods and continue the journey of light, myth, and meaning. Together, let's uncover the next revelation, beyond the code, beyond the gods, into the truth that waits within.